The summer of 2011 was one of Arsenal's most difficult in modern history. Both Cesc Fabregas and Samir Nasri had departed, leaving to Barcelona and Manchester City respectively. As replacements, Arsene Wenger had signed the Ivorian winger Gervinho and several young talents, including Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Carl Jenkinson, and Joel Campbell. Arsenal started the season looking sluggish and shaky, and paid for it with the infamous 8-2 mauling at Old Trafford. The situation was now desperate. Wenger required experienced reinforcements, and fast. On the advice of his scout Francis Cagagao, Wenger had spent the entire summer pursuing both Juan Mata and Santi Cazorla as potential replacements for Fabregas. Ultimately, however, they missed out on both players for financial reasons. And so, as the transfer window came to an end, Arsenal turned to none other than Mikel Arteta and Per Mertesacker. Here's the inside story of how the two veterans saved Arsenal Football Club the first time. At the time, Arteta was not the typical Wenger signing. At 29 years of age, he was already past his peak athletically. Wenger was also hesitant to buy established players from within the Premier League, where he felt their prices were inflated. However, Arteta's experience in England is exactly what made him so valuable. In Aaron Ramsey, Jack Wilshere, and Alex Song, Arsenal had a collection of young, talented midfielders. However, they needed someone who could offer consistency and leadership from the get-go. Wenger's report suggested Arteta was the best man for that job. In addition, the deal to sign Mertesacker was relatively straightforward. He had been offered to Arsenal earlier in the summer, and the club knew the exact figures required to secure the German. Even on deadline day, Mertesacker was far from the first choice, however. It was only once deals for Jadielka and other targets evaded them that the Gunners eventually turned back to the German centre half. As soon as Mertesacker got wind of Arsenal's interest, he was on the next plane to London. The two senior signings immediately struck up a good friendship after arriving at the club on deadline day. Both men stayed at the same hotel in London before eventually finding their own places. With Mertesacker not yet accustomed to driving on the left, Arteta would drive him back and forth to the training ground. The topic of conversation during their drives was mostly football, as the two veterans would discuss past training sessions, formations, and tactical scenarios for up-and-coming games. On the field, Mertesacker's adaptation was not as straightforward. Initially, he struggled with the pace of the game, but after a few months, he steadily began to rediscover his composure. In that period, Arteta had to make changes to his own game. Wenger deployed Arteta in a deeper role. The Spaniard, who had played as a number 10 during his time at Everton, had to suppress his attacking instincts for the benefit of the team, which further underlines his football intelligence. Ultimately, in their first season together, the new signings helped steady the ship and snatched third place from rivals Tottenham on the final day. In fact, in their 5 years together at Arsenal as players, Arsenal would not finish outside the top 4. A true accomplishment considering what happened the years after the pair left. Off the pitch, both men quickly proved good deputies to Captain Thomas Vermaelen. At the time, Arsenal had a very young and inexperienced squad. Wenger's most successful teams had been built upon a tradition of self-discipline. While some Premier League managers would enforce rules themselves, Wenger's preference was to leave things to the players, and both Arteta and Mertesacker were the two who assumed most responsibility after arriving. Between them, they would dish out fines, whether it was being late to breakfast, wearing the wrong clothes to travel, or even failing to wear flip-flops in the shower. The two leaders took it upon themselves to enforce discipline. With Vermaelen lacking form and fitness before the 2014 FA Cup final, it was Arteta who wore the armband. When Arsenal's 9-year wait for silverware finally ended at Wembley, it was Vermaelen who first lifted the trophy, but then passed it to Arteta, recognizing his contribution to the season and the day. When Vermaelen would move on later that summer, it was no surprise that Arteta succeeded him as captain, with Mertesacker as vice. When Arsenal won the Community Shield that autumn, Arteta was there, as the main man, to raise the trophy. The following years, Arteta and Mertesacker formed a formidable leadership duo. They didn't just hold their teammates accountable, but each other as well. Unfortunately, the next season was a tough one for Arteta, who missed the majority of it through injury. A 6-month layoff meant he even missed out on playing in a second successive FA Cup final. Naturally, during that time, Mertesacker took over as captain. When Arsenal won the cup, the plan was for Mertesacker to lift the trophy, but at the last moment, the German insisted Arteta join him. That moment symbolized their time together at Arsenal. Two leaders who believed only in unified success. When Arteta eventually retired in 2016, Mertesacker took the armband on a full-time basis. Having learnt so much from the Spaniard, Mertesacker welcomed the responsibility that Arteta had held for many years. In the next season, it was Mertesacker's turn to show his strength of character. He suffered a tough injury in the summer of 2016 and missed nearly the entire season. During his time out, he spent much of the season working with Arsenal staff off the field. Whether it was scouting opposition or setting up training sessions, the German made sure he was involved. In the end, Mertesacker fought his way back to fitness and made his first start of the season in the 2017 FA Cup final, Arsenal's third in 4 years. Arsenal won, with the German being named man of the match. If you add the FA Cup trophies with regular Champions League qualification, this time period in Arsenal's history begins to look like a relatively successful spell. In their brief time together, Arteta and Mertesacker didn't just prevent Arsenal from struggling, they got them winning again. Now, just a few years later, the tandem have been given a similar task, to save Arsenal Football Club, but this time as managers. When Arteta returned to Arsenal as head coach last December, Mertesacker was there to welcome him. The two men are now in roles that appear to suit their strengths. The German was always more reserved and envisions a future as a technical director rather than a coach, whereas Arteta was always destined to be a manager. And so, the formidable duo had been reunited to once again lift Arsenal from what has been a shaky few years. The trophy count began in August with the FA Cup. This season is a time to push on and make sure Arsenal retain Champions League football. Arteta and Mertesacker has saved us before. Now it feels like they're at it again.